Oh, no, I screwed it up. Hold on. Whoa. Production value increasing, increasing. All right. Hi everyone. Welcome to the show. We are doing something a little different today. Instead of playing Mega Man games, we're going to be ranking Mega Man games, specifically 1 through 6. For me, really specifically the Mega Man Legacy Collection, first volume. To help me do that, I have recruited fellow streamer and classic Mega Man enthusiast. I'll call you Ichigo Dave, who made the questionable decision to tune into my stream one day, and everything I'm sure has gone downhill for him since. Thanks for joining me this fine evening, Dave. Right before we get started, I wanted to provide a little context. So, can you tell me a little bit about your history with the series?
Yeah, sure. I think Mega Man was one of the first. I think it was the first video game that I ever owned was Mega Man 4. So like I grew up with an NES in the house, and Mega Man 4 was the first Mega Man game that we owned. Definitely got me into the series. So I played a lot of the first six Mega Man games when I was very, very young. And like I was awful at them, and I'm pretty sure I used Game Genie to get through most of them, quite
Nice.
honestly. But yeah, like a couple years ago, I decided to try to get back, or I sort of just got back into it through like YouTube videos and watching some speed runs and stuff. It's kind of why I joined Twitch, because I like wanted to be part of what's going on with people playing Mega Man on Twitch. And yeah, that's it. I still play on a regular basis. I replay the old ones. I like to play fan games and ROM hacks and stuff like that. So I'm like moderately skilled, but you know, it's like a love hate relationship with Mega Man. Sometimes you love it, and then while you're playing it, you're like, God damn it, I
Oh,
fucking hate this game.
amen. Amen to that. Yeah,
that's
I've
my that's my history in a nutshell.
nice. So mine is somewhat similar. For my part, I we never had an NES in the house, but I had friends when I was a little kid who had an NES, and that's where I played a ton of Mega Man games as a kid. I don't remember, other than two, I don't remember which ones they were. All I remember was sucking at them. I never beat any of them, including two, growing up, but still really loved them. Got really into Mega Man X when that came out. But then, yeah, as an adult, picked up the Legacy Collection. I think the same thing. It was like speed runs that got me really reinterested in the series, and then when saw the Legacy Collections go on sale, thought it would be a good stream, picked them up, played through them, and yeah, enjoyed myself. Tried to kind of stay pure, relatively purist with it. Didn't use save states. I guess with the exception of like I used them so I didn't have to remember passwords and occasion
Mm.
like on and in between Wily levels because redoing those whole sections is bullshit. I don't have time for that. but uh but yeah, and then I guess the only other thing is, despite having played through all six and having some experience with them, like I don't know anything when it comes to like the behind the scenes stuff. I know there's a lot of stuff that's come out about that. I haven't followed the plot at all. I honestly couldn't care less. But yeah.
What plot?
Yeah, exactly. It didn't show up until like Mega Man 4 anyways, I feel like. So, all right. So I guess just in terms of explanations on the tier list, I've got all six games, the two box art versions of each. I figured I would give you your ranks, being the Japanese versions, and I will take the far objectively superior North American box art to go with my objectively superior opinions. And with that, we can get started. All right, before I drop it in, my spiel on Mega Man 1 is so this game has some real bullshit. Mega Man is especially slippery in this one, I feel like. I'm not sure if it's true, but I remember like the knockback seems like extra intense in this game, or if that's, I'm not sure if it's the knockback or just the way that the platforming works. There's a lot of like just jank in this game, which I think is which is there because it's the first in the series and blah blah blah, and that's fine. Uh, but I'm not going to come in and say that this game is like perfect by any stretch. You know, there's that being said, the music in it is fucking great. It is short, like it's only got 6 bosses. But as far as I'm concerned, the short and like kind of basic nature to it to me was a big plus. Even though it could probably be tighter, like a tighter game, I kind of feel like the brevity of it combined with the jank put I really like it. Like this game is brutal. I found it like probably the most brutal of of this series, and I fucking loved it. Um, the like the Wily stages, I really liked how they do it. I thought, especially in the end game, like utilizing the power ups, I thought they did a really good job of. I think they did a better job in this one than they did in some of the later games. So even though this game is rough around the edges, I was at first I was going to give it a C because I figured this would be a good baseline. But then looking at what of the games would I actually go back and play it, like in which of these games am I most likely to go back and play, that brought it right up into a B for me personally. So yeah, that's my Mega Man 1 review.
You know, I think we're pretty much on the same page with this one. So let me go through what I have here. I mean, I agree with you about the knockback seems particularly bad, and it's way too slippery. The slippery aspect of this game, I think, like it loses an entire tier just because the controls are so goddamn annoying.
That's fair.
Especially if you've played older ones, like going back to Mega Man 1 if you didn't start there is like that is rough. I kind of forgot how bad it was because I had been playing some Mega Man 1 ROM hacks, and they let you like remove that slipperiness. Like you can play Mega Man 1 without the slippery controls. And like that was my most recent playthrough. And I was like, man, this game's great. I love Mega Man 1. and then I played the original and I was like, fuck, like no wonder people rag on this game. But yeah, what I have here is I think it deserves extra credit for being first, and like it defines like the structure for pretty much the rest of the classic series. Like they refine it, but I mean it's all there in the first game really with the boss weakness loop and stuff like that. So props for that. I agree with you about like it's short and sweet. I think the Wily Castle is actually really good. I think it's better than the Wily Castle in Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 3, which I think might be controversial, but I think it's a really good Wily Castle. The Yellow Devil, I have a chat in my chat from Missiles Please. He's talking about how much he loves the Yellow Devil. 100% agree. I think the Yellow Devil fight is really fun. It's a challenge, but definitely my favorite part of the game.
I really like that fight too. I agree.
It's a bitch with the slippery controls, but it's doable. You know, it's just like memorization. So that's cool. Missiles, please also mention the Magnet Beam. Got to mention the Magnet Beam is like one of the best platforming items in the entire series. And it's like kind of annoying that they just dropped it and like never let you use it in any of the later games. But yeah, they have the boss rush is better than all the other classic series games because they actually like you encounter the bosses as you're going through the stages, and like after Mega Man 1, they just do that boss rush where it's like you have the room and all 8 of them are there. But like it's cool. Like Mega Man X does that style where you're like going through the final stages and you like encounter the Mavericks as you go. So I think that's cool. I think they should have done that for the rest of the series.
I also agree with that. I'm not sure if that's just my X bias coming through, but I also 100% agree with that point.
Elecman stage sucks. I don't have anything else to say about that. But then the Turbo Tunnel, there's this part, I don't think Turbo Tunnel is what anybody else would call it, but there's this part in the Wily Castle where it's almost like there's this flush of like water and it like carries you forward. And so it actually like increases your speed. You're kind of like moving really fast. And it's really fun to like play as Mega Man moving at like 2x speed or whatever. And they never use that again. Yeah. I don't think any of the other NES games use anything similar to that, and it just kind of annoys me. And I want to give Mega Man credit for that very short but kind of fun sequence where they have the turbo tunnel. So I'm going to put it in B tier as well.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, no controversy yet. It's coming though. I can already tell. All right. Mega Man 2. Um boy, this one I had a hard time thinking of what to say about this because I feel like it's all been said already. Like the music's great, it's iconic. In my head, it's kind of the epitome of classic Mega Man games. Like I I kind of forgot. I knew that it was like Charge Shot and Slide were coming later in the series, but for some reason in my head before replaying, I thought that was like maybe 5 and 6. I didn't realize like how early those came in because I think I just spent a lot of time playing Mega Man 2 as a kid and didn't realize that this was the same game and not different ones or something like that. Um yeah, a lot of the technical critiques I think that you can make in Mega Man 1 were definitely smoothed out in this game. There's no more there's no more slippery sliding and except yeah, like just for Mega Man in general. It's such a huge step in a lot of ways over one that I'm like I don't know. When I look at it, I'm not surprised that it is, you know, like the classic Mega Man game for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And yeah, for me, at the end of the day, if I have to pick one Mega Man game to just sit down and play randomly, it's gonna be 2. Like, so for me, that's an S tier. I don't have a whole lot to add to that discussion, but for me, this is like the Mega Man game, and how much of that is is just nostalgia bias, I'm not sure. But the nostalgia goggles are strong, and I love this. I love this game. Almost everything about it, pretty much.
Man, that's a glowing review. I agree with a lot of that. Um, what do I have? So yeah, I kind of agree. Like a lot of this stuff has already been said about Mega Man 2. They fixed the controls, thank God. And for the most part, I think they're even better after Mega Man 2, but like they fixed the worst of it,
Yeah.
which I really appreciate. Maybe the most handsome set of Robot Masters. Just like the designs of the
It's
Robot Masters are so classic, and I don't think any of the other series, like classic series games, are better. I think there are some that are just as good, but I don't think anything is better than Mega Man 2 in terms of like how cool the Robot Masters are. Soundtrack kicks ass, 100%. I think this is also the most nostalgic one for me. Even though I said that Mega Man 4 was the first one that I owned, I think Mega Man 2 definitely had something really special. Like I remember renting it from Blockbuster a lot. And
yes.
like it was pretty easy to get through because it also, like the first one, it doesn't have a lot of like filler or anything. It's
Hmm.
pretty short and sweet in terms of there's no like filler in between before the castle stages. You have E-Tanks, which was a really awesome addition, I think, which you didn't have in Mega Man 1. So I have this like Mega Man art book that has a lot of excerpts from interviews with like Inafune and some of the designers and other people who worked on the games. And apparently, I think it was Inafune was really pushing for the energy tank, but like there were other people who actually didn't think that the energy tank was necessary, and he was like, "No, it's really important that we include the energy tank." So shout out to Inafune for giving us the E tank, and also they limit you to 4 E tanks, which I feel like is really important
Ooh, that's
because once you get to Mega Man 3 through like basically 3 and beyond, you can have 9 E tanks. So like my strategy in most of these games is to just hoard my E tanks
yep.
until the final boss. Then it's like, well, I don't need to learn the pattern or like get good at this fight. I'm just gonna tank all the damage and like burn through these E tanks. You can't really do that in Mega Man 2, which I appreciate.
I didn't realize that 2 had the that had 4 as the limit. I don't think I had 4 going into the end, but yeah,
Yeah.
I still agree because that's something I kind of hold against the later games for sure.
All right, so I'm gonna talk about some of the things I don't like about Mega Man 2. So first, I'm going to point at I have missiles in my chat talking about the boo beam trap room, like the purple hell
Oh,
from the Wily Castle is horrendous. And I would actually go a step farther and say that most of the Wily Castle is pretty shit in Mega Man 2. The Mecha Dragon, like the first stage where you have to get to the dragon and like it's so easy to just instantly fall off and die. And like Mega Man 2 is still a little bit janky. So like there are a lot of deaths that you feel like, at least for me, a lot of deaths that I feel like weren't really my fault. And I'm just like, man, fuck this game. And then I'm like spending all this time farming. I'm like, oh, I gotta farm for like item 1 and item 3. And even as an experienced player, I knew what was coming in the Boo Beam Trap. I should say that I played all these games this week, like to prep for this. I was like, oh,
oh.
I got to replay all these games. So this is like fresh in my mind. And I went into Purple Hell and I was like, yeah, I know what they're going to, I know this bullshit they're going to pull. And I thought I was so prepared for it. And I still ended up running out of Crash Bomb
Oh
and had
no.
to spend like 20 minutes farming. And I'm just like, like gnashing my teeth the whole time. Like, God damn it, this stupid game. So my point is that I think for me, Mega Man 2 is an S tier game until you get to the Wily Castle, and it kind of ruins it for me a little bit, unfortunately. And do I have anything else? I guess that's about it. I'm gonna give it a B. I'm gonna put Mega Man 2 in the B tier, right next to Mega Man 1, because I think if you take out the slipperiness of Mega Man 1, I think that it's like pretty much on par with Mega Man 2, to be perfectly honest. So I feel like that's a little bit controversial. And I think my most recent playthrough actually changed my mind about it a little bit. I used to hold 2 like a little bit higher in my mind, but it really pissed me off last time. So I'm going to punish it.
That's fair. I know. Reflecting on that, because yeah, I would have probably the same criticisms. I mean, that's pretty universal, but I know there's a certain part of my masochism that kind of enjoys that shit. Not enjoys it, but enjoys conquering it at the end. But yeah, fair enough. Does that look good on that tier list, or do you want me to move it up a little bit? I've got it below the 2 Mega Man 1s at the moment.
That's fine.
Okay.
Oh, are you saying, so you're saying like within each tier, you're like ranking them within the tiers?
Yes. So I guess the closer to the letter, the higher.
Okay. I mean, I would put it above Mega Man 1.
One.
I'd put it like a smidge above Mega Man 1, I think. So yeah, you can flip them.
Okay, perfect.
Also, one other note on Mega Man 2, I feel like even though I love the way the Robot Masters look, I feel like the fights are not that great. I feel like there's still some fights that it's like, I can't actually dodge any of this shit. Like Airman and Woodman, I'm just like, well, I'm just going to tank all this damage and hope that I can like mash the button fast enough so that they'll die. And usually that strategy works, but it's just kind of like, there's a lot of room for improvement there.
For sure. I never got the hang of Airman. It was always just like either I'll get lucky enough and get a good pattern, because if it's anything other than like the simplest shit, I'm taking those hits every fucking time. But skill issues. All right. Mega Man Tree. Let's see, what do I have for this one? So Slide debuted, a Mega Man staple moving forward. Also had some great music. For the most part, I thought the stages were hard but fair. Like, I feel like at this point we're getting to where the design of the levels is getting a little bit like far less jank. We're getting into stuff that's like intentionally hard as opposed to just like hard because of the bullshit and the cheese, which is good. The bosses, meh, like a big meh from me. There, and then like everything is, for me, everything is good, and then the end game hits, and I fucking hate this game. And it's weird for me personally. It's weird because like, so I don't know what the proper, like, I'm sure there's a proper name for like the, I have it, I wrote it down as like the dark robot stages. I don't know if they have like a proper title, but oh my, like, it's weird. On the one hand, I enjoy like bullshit hard levels. Like I've said, I don't have a problem with that. It's just that between those levels and then the Wily Castle, the whole end game feels like bloat. Like I would have rather of them just made the actual stages harder. Like I wouldn't have minded that level of difficulty if it was like baked in throughout the game. But for some reason when you put it in those like last the four stage revisits, oh god, I hated it so much. And then on to Wily, and the ending was like, yeah, the Wily stages I'm not a huge fan. I wasn't really a fan of anything in there. The Wily fights I kind of thought were kind of dog shit. uh, so to me this was a good, like a really good game, like almost a step up in a lot of senses on two. And then the end game hits, and like I just hate it. I hate it so much. And that sours me a lot on that one. That being said, for me, all of that brings it kind of into brings it down into a C for me personally. Yeah, there we go. Oops.
Don't you love how Mega Man is just shooting Sparkman right in the nuts in that box art?
I love this box art.
Maybe the best thing about Mega Man 3, actually.
Nice.
All right, yeah. So, okay, for real though, best thing about Mega Man 3 is the soundtrack. Missiles it has it right. Best soundtrack. Well, okay, 2 and 3 I think have the best soundtracks in the series. I think 2 and 3
can't
both are like on par.
I can't pick between them
peak
either.
Mega Man music.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
100%. If
Especially
I didn't
like yeah, go ahead.
I was to say if I didn't say that the music was excellent, I meant to, because 100%.
Such banger. It like the yeah, oh my god, such bangers. Enough said. So yes, the game was super rushed. Well, I don't know if you knew about this actually, T-Roy, but like the backstory is that they made Mega Man 3 in like 6 months or something.
Oh
I get
shit.
confused because I think Mega Man 3 and Mega Man 7 both had like ridiculously short development windows. But Mega Man 3 is the one that people talk about more because like Mega Man 7 still came together pretty well and Mega Man 3 didn't really. I think Inafune was like really frustrated with the development of Mega Man 3. I don't know how painful it was for everybody involved, but there's like a lot of stuff that's just kind of unfinished or half baked. The bosses is like the most. The bosses is the best example of that, I think, where a lot of them are just like recycled from Mega Man 2. It seems like I feel like I could make a chart and like draw a direct comparison where it's like, well, they just remade this boss from this stage. I don't excuse like even though it was rushed, I'm not gonna like grade it on a curve or anything. Like I'm still gonna be just as harsh on it. I don't care if it was rushed. Like sorry that you didn't have enough time, guys, but the game's still bullshit.
You still put it out and charged full price, so
And it pains me to hate on it so much. I think if you asked me a year ago what my favorite Mega Man is, I would have said 3. And now there's no way I would say 3. I think in my head I was like, well, that's the one where they introduced the slide and like the rush utilities. And I thought that was really cool. And like, yes, the slide is maybe the best innovation in the whole classic series. Super glad that they added it. I think it's the only reason that this game is not like lower on the tier list. You can also climb ladders faster. I don't know if you remember, but it's like kind of painfully slow to climb ladders in Mega Man 1 and 2. And they like doubled the climbing speed. So like just the pace of it is a lot faster, which I really appreciate. Stage design is like better than Mega Man 1 and 2. Like there's got some more interesting stuff going on with the early stages. But then it's just not well balanced. I feel like the Robot Master fights are not that well balanced. A lot of the like Wily boss fights are not that balanced. Missiles is saying that the game showers you with E-tanks to apologize for all of this like imbalance and like being cobbled together. And I actually wrote a note that was very similar to that because I was like going through the game and I'm like, man, I'm glad that they're giving me all these free E-tanks so that I don't have to like fight these bosses multiple times because they suck. And then, the Doc Robot stages, like you said, it's just horrible. I mean, it's clearly just filler. They just padded the game to add more stuff. And unfortunately, they really like set a precedent for the rest of the series. where like from then on they decided it was a good idea. Like, oh, we need more. We need to put something in the middle between these two sections. And I'm gonna put all that like I could take points away from like Mega Man 4, 5, and 6 for doing that, but I'm just gonna put all the blame on Mega Man 3. It gets all the blame um, for introducing that as a thing. So I cannot forgive Mega Man 3. As much as I love the soundtrack and the slide, it's just there's nothing to look forward to after the first 8 fights. It's like, well,
Yep.
great. Now I have Doc Robot, which is, like you said, super frustrating. And then I have the Wily stages, which are just like bland.
I
So
literally
yeah, once the 8, it's like if somebody were playing it for the first time and didn't care about like actually completing it, I'd say just like beat the 8 robots and then stop.
yeah, that I was literally gonna say exactly that. I don't even remember the Wily levels from 3 like at all. I remember the fight
Yeah.
because I think there's just some bullshit in it, but totally forgettable. And but yeah, if you were just like a casual, if you rented it from the video store for a weekend and you just made it through the mate like the first 8 fights, great game. But yeah, as soon as you go beyond that, it just ugh, ugh. So where does it land?
I give it a C. I
All
give it a
right.
C also.
I wanted to give it extra points for having Rush in it, but sorry, not even the doggo could save that one.
Well, the dog is just a cheese machine in that game.
Yes.
It's like, oh, well, there's so much bullshit platforming that like I'm really glad that they included Rush, but it's not really like integrated so much. There's like one section where I think you have to use Rush Jet, and otherwise it's like, okay, I'm just gonna use Rush Jet because this section
Because
is
this,
bullshit.
yes, exactly. All right. Mega Man 4. All right. So, on the one hand, I felt like they tried a lot of stuff in this game. Like, I feel like this one had a lot of variety and kind of gimmicky shit. I just didn't like most of it, to be honest. I think this is a taste. I think this is a matter of taste, but it's like, there's good ideas, and I just don't like how they executed on a lot of them. Like, for example, I think this is the first one that has like a real exploration element to it, collecting hidden stuff. I
Yeah.
but I didn't like how they implemented it. It's like the idea is cool and obviously goes places later in the series, the various series, but like in this game, it's like ugh. I it felt like a chore to have to like go back and try to find shit, so I didn't bother. They brought in the charge shot, which I have mixed feelings about. I feel like throughout this series, the charge shot is either like overpowered or like meh, and I'm fine with meh, but it kind of wore thin on this one. Like I feel like in this game I just used the char, like I don't think I ever used the boss powers until I had to. I just used charge shot for everything. Cause, and you don't have to menu out to use it. It just, so for me it kind of destroyed like that part of Mega Man, fucking around with the powers
Mhm.
in different levels. So not great on that. I have a note, and I don't know if this is particular in this game or if it just got me in this game the most, but I felt like there was a lot of level design where there's enemies that are either dropping from the ceiling or like shooting up out of the floor, and
Mm.
uh it was like absolutely designed like fuck you devs. Like you knew that this was gonna suck and you put it in anyways, and then you did it again and again and again. Like fuck. um the For the bosses, some of them are kind of borked and like meh at best in my opinion for this one. um and I'm gonna heap, instead of putting all the blame on 3 for the double end game levels, like the Cossack level and then the Wily Castle, I strongly dislike the double castles at the end of Mega Man games. And while yeah, obviously it kind of started in 3 like you were saying, but this was like the official start of it. And I especially like the cost, I think it's in the Cossack levels where like the boss, there's no boss door save. Like if you die in a boss, you have to restart in the check part, and that to me is like Mega Man blasphemy. So, it pissed me the first time I died and set me back there. I was so fucking pissed. Uh, so yeah. So for all of those reasons, Mega Man 4 for me gets a big solid D.
Holy shit! I'm gonna fight you on this
I
one,
knew this. I
Tiro.
knew this one was coming. I do not like Mega Man 4. At the end of the day, when I was looking back, I'm like, which one of these do I want to replay? Not 4. I'll skip 4 every time if I can.
And
Fight
all
me.
right. Hey, you are entitled to your bad opinion for sure.
Absolutely.
I will admit that I might be wearing the nostalgia goggles a little bit. Like I mentioned, this is my first Mega Man game. Actually, hold on one sec. I have a copy here. I gotta grab it because how often do you get a chance?
Yeah, for sure.
I just recently picked this up actually at a game convention. So this is not my original version, but like as a kid, I was an idiot and I like peeled off the label just because I was bored or something one day. And so I've never had a clean copy of it since then. I was very excited to actually get one. But yeah, let me see what I wrote here. So there's a story. This is the first Mega Man where like I think there is some story that's told in like the instruction manuals for other Mega Man games. You can like kind of get a little bit of story that way, but this is the only one where you get the story in game, really. There's like a little
Boo.
bit in Mega Man 3, but they don't tell the full story. So there's like some dialogue and you're just like, who the fuck is Gamma? And then you just forget about it. But I think the story in the beginning really drew me in as a kid. I think those cutscenes are like for NES, like the graphics are really good and like I thought they were super cool. The music is very very nice in the intro. I do think the music is great throughout. I think it's like maybe slightly weaker than 2 and 3, but I think that it's still pretty close. I have a lot of Mega Man 4 songs that I really like. I think the Robot Master designs are very cool. I would put them on the same tier as Mega Man 2 if I were ranking just like how they look. But I think the fights, I think this is the first Mega Man game where they got the fights like pretty well balanced. You can do like a Buster only challenge in Mega Man 4 and it feels good. Like most of the fights for me were like nice and challenging, but like not stupid difficult. Like I don't know. I feel like in Mega Man 3 there are a couple of robots where like if you don't have their weakness, you're just gonna get rocked. But usually you have a chance in Mega Man 4, which I thought was cool. I think it raised the bar on aesthetics. Like it just looks really nice design wise, and there's like more stuff that's on theme. I feel like you have like Pharaoh Man, you like go into like an Egyptian tomb, and Toad Man, you're like in a sewer. Skull Man is like kind of archaeological. So I feel like there was a lot of like theming that was a bit better than the previous games. Um, I wrote that I have very little to complain about, except there's still too much slowdown. I was playing on the Legacy Collection, but I had the CPU changed to like original CPU because I wanted to like kind of test the performance of the games a little bit. And like I don't know. I feel like by Mega Man 4, there's not that much excuse for slowdown. Mega Man 3 is the fucking worst with slowdown. But like, yeah, I was super rushed, whatever. I don't think there's as much of an excuse in Mega Man 4, so I'll dock it a little bit for that. And I'll also dock it for the double castle, which I think I agree with you. The double castle model is just like annoying. I wrote we can blame 3 for this. I also think that the Casa Castle, even though I don't like the double castle, I think Casa Castle is pretty cool. Like it's got snow and ice. It's got you kind of like the feel of it as you go through the stages. It's almost like ascending through the castle. I feel like you can kind of like feel yourself going like higher in altitude with the backgrounds and like how high up you are, which is really cool. So yeah, I love this game. I will tell you where I'm going to put it on the tier list, but I just wanted to like call out a couple things that Missile said in the chat over here because he really likes Mega Man 4. Says IMO 4 has the best stages in the entire classic series from beginning to end. So well
Ooh.
built around the Mega Buster that I don't mind using it a lot. I'm glad you mentioned that, Missiles, because I also really like the charge shot, like the, I guess that's what you mean when you mean the Mega Buster.
Yeah.
I think the charge shot is like not, I like it. I think that if you could like quickly switch weapons more easily, if you didn't have to like open the menu to get to all your other weapons, then like I wouldn't care as much about the charge shot, but I think it's super handy. And they also introduced mini bosses or like sub bosses in the levels, and I feel like the charge shot's kind of important for those. Um, Robot Master weapons are terrible. I don't agree with that. Soundtrack is incredible. Totally agree with that. Plot twist blew my mind as a kid. I mean, it does have a like a decent. At least there's like some story. Like somebody actually put like 3 brain cells into writing a story, which I appreciate. You say double castle is twice the fun. I cannot agree with that, but I do, for the most part, agree. And I'm gonna put it in the A tier. Let's get that A tier filled in with something finally.
Well, well, well. A first major disagreement. Nice work. uh all right. Actually, just since we're between here, I've been ignoring my chat this whole time because if I bring up OBS, everything starts to crash. So sorry guys. Yes, I am ignoring you for production values. I'm sure you'll get over it in time. And if not, too bad for you. And yeah, if you read the stream title, it says the redeems are disabled because I know you guys would be trolling me so fucking hard right now if I didn't. So you're just scamming yourselves. It's not my fault. But you can blame me if you want. All right. Oops, I broke it. Hold on. Here we go. All right, where are we at? 5. Do. All right. Mega Man 5. What did I my first note for Mega Man 5 is they massacred my boy. They killed Rush Coil. What the fuck did they do to Rush Coil in this game? I swear it took me like half the game to actually like realize how the mechanic changed. And I just was like, what did they do? What the fuck is this? So, you know, that's obviously my biggest critique of this one. No, actually my biggest critique from this one, and once again, I don't know if this might just be me, but I found that the difficulty swings in this game were kind of bizarre. Like some stages or like parts of stages were super like were fine and kind of like the expected difficulty, and then some shit just seemed like really, really hard. I didn't write down exactly what those levels were or anything like that, but that's when I think back on Mega Man 5, I think of like, yeah, and then I got, I did this, I would be streaming it and like be making tons of progress, clearing levels, and then I would be stuck on like one section for like, felt like hours and hours, just dying again and again and again, getting so mad at it, which I'm actually a fan of, frankly. It was just weird that the difficulty didn't, in my experience, it didn't seem like it followed a curve. It just seemed like there would just be these random ass spikes. That being said, I enjoyed, no, I'm not going to go back on it. But perhaps, according to some people's opinions, maybe I was a bit harsh on maybe I didn't appreciate the evolution of the boss fights and the mechanics until this game. But I really enjoyed all the boss fights in this one. I didn't find them like quite as easy or as jank as I thought they were in some of the other games. Like there weren't like, I don't know. Yeah, I thought this game was well balanced. I thought it was a really good example. Like, you take all the refinement up to this point, I thought everything really came together in Mega Man 5. If I was gonna suggest, I think like a classic Mega Man game to someone who had never played them before, I think 5 would be the one that I would say to start with. If for some reason I didn't say 2. If you didn't want to play 2, I 5 would be my next call on that one. Um, so for those reasons, I'm gonna give it my first A tier.
Ooh, the way you were describing it, I didn't think you were going to go with A.
No, I like this one. It's kind of, I had a hard time. Once again, it was one of those ones where, like, when I laid out my critique of it, I think it comes together to be greater than the sum of its parts, or something like that. When I was looking back on it, I was like, though, if in the order in which these games I would replay just based off which ones I liked the most, I would probably go 2 and then 5. So, and maybe that's just the dyslexia talking, because but yeah, that's my call for 5.
All right, so for 5, I guess before I even go through my notes, I 5 is I talked about Mega Man 4. It's like kind of a core memory playing Mega Man 4 as a kid. Mega Man 5 I also remember because my one of my best buddies had Mega Man 5, and like when we went over to his house and played Mega Man 5, and that was like the only time I really played Mega Man 5 was over at his house. So I didn't really get like a full playthrough of it. I just got exposed to it a little bit here and there. And I thought it was just like a poor man's Mega Man 4. Like I was like, "Oh man, like Mega Man 4 is so much better in this game. The robots are so much cooler." They're like I think my opinion's changed quite a bit now. I know that the community, the community, like Mega Man fan base, I think, if I may speak for the hive mind, like people used to rag on Mega Man 5 because like it didn't do enough new stuff. Like it didn't really change that much. It's almost the same as Mega Man. It's like they added letters. You can find the letters or like collect the letters, and they changed the charge shot a little bit, and like that's basically it. So I think a lot of people just criticized the game for that, but I think looking back, like I don't think that's a really good reason to criticize it necessarily, because I think it is just like a nice refinement from Mega Man 4. Like there's not as much slowdown. I think the stage design is really good. um I wrote that it's perhaps the best of this group 1 through 6, closest to S tier. I wrote it's closest to S tier. So spoilers, I didn't actually put it in S tier, but aesthetics are strong. I think these games get prettier and prettier as they go. I think like 5 and 6 are probably the prettiest games. Best stage design along with 6. You have low gravity for the first time on Starman stage, which is really cool. It's like kind of the same as being underwater, but you're in space, right? That's cool. You have anti-grav, like being upside down in Gravity Man stage. There's a train stage. There's like vertical and horizontal auto scrolling. You have like the Wave Man sequence where you jump on the jet ski or whatever, and you're like fighting other Sniper Joes on jet skis, which I thought was really cool.
So
It's
sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
I'm just curious because, okay, so the jet ski section, I was something I hated doing at the time, but like looking back, I like it. I'm just like, is that? I'm just curious because I think a lot more about, like, as you put it, the community hive mind opinion on this stuff. Is that, do people hate that section? I feel like it's such a departure from like the rest of Mega Man in a lot of ways that it could bring a lot of hate in. Uh,
There is some auto scroll stuff that people hate. I usually hear it for Mega Man 8. There's like some auto scroll in Mega Man 8 that people fucking hate. I haven't heard that. I haven't heard complaints about this part in particular.
okay.
Although I will say, even though I was just complimenting that section for being like creative, I didn't have fun. It was not a I also didn't think it was a fun section. I just was giving them props for like trying, I
Trying, yeah.
guess. But I died several times. It's too long. I was like, oh my god, please let this section end. And I just praying that I didn't die at the very end of the section, because they like throw a sub boss in the middle of it. It's kind of annoying, but I like that they tried.
Oh, cool.
I don't know where I left off, but the boss fights are really well balanced. Just like in Mega Man 4, you can do like a Buster only run. Um, weapons, the weapon set is pretty notoriously bad. I don't, there's like, are there any weapons that are very useful? I don't think so. But the charge shot, people often say is like the charge shot is overpowered. And I don't know if did you mention anything about the charge shot? Because they make the hitbox bigger, and I think it's more powerful.
Oh, really? Okay.
And
If
yeah,
that's true, then that's the opposite of my perception because I thought it was more powerful in 4 than it was in 5.
uh,
But
okay,
but
yeah.
just because
Most people are like, yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was just saying, but just because that's I mean, I could be totally wrong. If the hitbox is bigger and it does more damage, then then it's more powerful in 5. But for some reason it bothered me less in 5. So,
Interesting. That is interesting. I mean, I really like that. I mean, one thing I'll mention that I haven't mentioned yet is like all of these games annoy me in one sense, which is that you cannot quickly switch between weapons. Like every single time you need to open the menu and like navigate to it, close the menu, and there's a fucking select button on the controller. So I'm just like pulling my hair out like, Capcom, how did you design 6 of these games and no one was like, should we let them select weapons with the select button? Like nobody ever thought of that. So I really appreciate that there is a charge shot that you can basically just depend on and you don't really have to worry about switching to other weapons, partly because the weapon set isn't that great anyway. There's like not that much that I want to use. But yeah, I'm gonna come back to that little rant in Mega Man 6. I think the music is taking a turn for the worse. I don't think Mega Man 5 music is that good. There are like 2 tracks that I really like, but in general, overall, it's not that great. Um, Missiles says that Mega Man 5 confused him. He said, "This game is so good. Why am I not having fun?" It's an
hmm,
interesting take. I
that
feel like
is an
that's like
interesting
kind of
take.
similar to what you were saying, T Roy. Um, yeah, he's saying it just feels bland for some reason, and I disliked it. I could totally understand that. People are like, especially if you're playing them in order, by the time you get to Mega Man 5, it's like, oh my God, like rinse and repeat. I've done this already. Um, but yeah, if you take it in isolation, just look at it, I really like it. So I'm going to put it in A tier.
Nice. Now with that, I'm gonna assume that's gonna be a step down from 4, though.
Um, it's tough. It's a tough call. I'm gonna put it above 4. I
Okay.
think. I think if it were like Desert Island, you only have one Mega Man game to bring. I'd probably bring Mega Man 4 for the nostalgia, but I don't want to let the nostalgia affect my ranking too much.
Gotcha. All right. Swiftly on to 6. Um boy, what do I have to say about 6? This one is okay, I guess in terms of like especially in terms of graphics, I would agree that both I mean obviously I think 5 and 6 are probably the best looking of the series. What they've really like I know I was impressed, particularly in 6, with like just like the level, like not the level design in terms of like the gameplay, but just the backgrounds and all that kind of stuff. Is like, oh yeah, like they're definitely like flexing at this point. They know how to make a how to program these games and get the most out of this like last gasp of the NES. Um, and so yeah, it's pretty looking. But but since you brought it up in the last one, and I would agree that the whole thing, and maybe this is just being spoiled with later entries, but not having not having a quick swap, especially in this game, especially for the rush upgrades. Oh my god, I hated it the most in this game. Um, like on the one hand, I want to give them props for being like kind of like really leaning into like, all right, we're gonna make parts of these levels where you really have to use this, like you have to use the game mechanics we give you guys, which I think is great. But using those mechanics is painful, and that really sucks. This game, and I'm not sure. Like, I took big breaks between my just for schedule like reasons. I took big breaks while doing my playthrough of this one, like weeks and weeks apart. and this game was easy. Like I found this game to be by far the easiest one, and I don't think that's just because I got better at Mega Man. um, so yeah, it kind of lost. My biggest knock on this one really is that it lost that brutal difficulty that I associate with classic Mega Man, and that I like that's part of the draw for me. So while it was part of me going through it that it was like, hey, I'm doing this pretty quick. We're barely dying. Like the bosses are going down in, one try. My E-tanks have been maxed the whole way through, blah, blah, blah. I feel pretty good. But there's part of my in the back of my head going like, yeah, but where's the fuck you from this game? There's nothing like punishing me in this game, and I miss it. So that being said, I can't call this game bad. For me, it's just like the most lukewarm meh of a game in this series, and for that reason, it falls right into C for me. I can't I,
See,
I can't give it a D. But because it's not like, yeah, it's too good to be bad, but it is just very, very meh.
okay. So I wrote actually a really good game, but I'm super I'm super annoyed by the jetpack implementation and the fact that they never used it again. Meaning like the jetpack existed in Mega Man 6 and then I guess Mega Man 7 had like something similar. But anyway, the point is that I think that the jetpack could have been uh an innovation that's like almost as good as the slide in terms of like adding different kinds of gameplay
Mhm.
and like mixing it up with the series. I think the jetpack had so much potential and I was like, hell yeah, this is awesome. It's like the closest thing to a double jump.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
was gonna
or even better, maybe.
yeah, the verticality, the potential for verticality was
Yeah,
huge with that for sure.
exactly. Like, but first of all, like you said, like we were kind of just talking about, it's so annoying to change to it. And like, do you like how they play the little animation every single time you
Uh,
switch? Like, did you play test this? Was nobody playing this? Like, wow, it's kind of annoying to watch that every time. Like, come on, guys. Um, and what else was I gonna say about that? I feel like the stages in the Wily section, the stages did require you to use your jetpack, but I didn't feel like there were any stages that were really like designed around it. It was like, oh, use your jetpack for this screen because this ladder is too high. And then you do it, and then you have to switch back because you need to like slide on the next screen. It's like, why can't I slide with the jetpack on? Like they could have just made the thing is they were thinking about the jetpack in the wrong way. They were thinking about the jetpack as like just a replacement to the rush or like an extension of the rush ability. And the way that they worked in the previous games, like, they're just like any of your weapons. You equip them one at a time. But like you should be able to just use the jetpack anytime. The jump button isn't being used for anything else. So why can't I use a special weapon at the same time as using the jetpack? Why can't I slide at the same time as using a jetpack? Like it could have been a game changer, and instead it was just like a thing that you have to switch to every once in a while, and that really like it makes me unreasonably annoyed where like I'm gonna dock this game extra points just because I feel like there was a missed opportunity, you know?
for sure.
Um Also, centaurs don't live in the water. I didn't remember this.
I
I did
forgot
not
about
remember
that.
this until I played it yesterday and I selected Centaur Man and I ended up in this water stage and I was like, wait,
I was all
what?
Now that you mention it, yeah, I was also quite confused by that. It's like it's like they did they have the stage first and then they got the boss afterwards or something?
100%. I mean that's the simplest explanation, right? They were like, yeah, we know exactly how these Mega Man games come together. I feel like that little detail reveals a lot. Whereas like they were just cookie cuttering things together. Like yeah, they made it look really pretty, but like the stages are most I mean there isn't that much that they've done that's different from other games. And yeah, they're like, oh yeah, we're totally gonna have a water level. And then when they didn't have a water boss, they were like, oh, Centaur Man, we'll just like give him this level. I mean, I remember a story about Mega Man 4. I was talking about like how Mega Man 4 had interesting theming, like the level themes were kind of like strong. Well, I read that when they picked Skullman, like Skullman was one of the submission, like one of the nominees for like a Robot Master. When they picked Skullman, they went back to this stage that had been something completely different and they like recreated it. They were like, oh, actually, this needs to be all skull stuff now. So like that stage, they cared more in Mega Man 4. They were like, oh wow, this is important that the stage actually matched the robot. And in Mega Man 6, they were just like, whatever. Like that's just again, it's like a small thing that just kind of pisses me off. Like centaurs live in the forest, guys. And the music is just really forgettable.
It
The
is.
final boss music is amazing, but that is the one and only song that I can even remember from that game.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. 100%. Yeah, the music is very, yeah, very, very meh. I thought there was one of those. I think like every level I went into when I was playing it, I was like, okay, no, this got like a couple. No, not really. Okay, damn it. It's just like waiting for that one banger to show up, and it never did until the very last
Yeah,
fight.
yeah, I know they made you wait long enough for it. So I think that this game is better than a C, but I don't feel like it's better than a C.
Ooh,
So I'm gonna nestle up right next to you in that C tier.
alrighty.
It makes me sad.
Yeah,
It
it's
makes me sad, but you deserve it, Mega Man 6.
they know what they did. So I think the one thing I know about Mega Man 6, or at least I think I know about Mega Man 6, it came out like the same year or the year before X or something like that. Like I know they were really close, which blows my mind.
Yeah, I think it might have come out
Are
after
you? Oh,
X.
really? Holy
I'm
shit.
not sure, but it came out in '94. I'm pretty sure. Which I thought X was like '93 or '94.
Yeah, I think it's 90. I think they're both 94, but yeah,
Okay.
it can definitely be fact checked on that. Um,
Mm.
yeah. So, anyways, it's when you look at not that I'm not ranking this in comparison to X, but it's one of those things where they cut. I mean, obviously different system as well, but it's just like when you look at what that game did and what six did, it was like, oh, they definitely needed to innovate, and they did a good job of it. It's too bad it didn't happen really for six.
Yeah, totally agree. And yeah, they came really late in the lives, like the NES or the Famicom life cycle. But I guess a lot of kids in Japan, like they still had the Famicom, like had never upgraded. And so that I think that was the reason they decided to release it on NES.
I feel like back then that was because I mean just my experience. Like I remember I got I don't remember what year it was, uh, but I got the Super Nintendo for Christmas, and for years afterwards, like most I like it seemed like it was like a fairly even split between those of us who had like the new consoles, and then like but tons of people was still like still had the NES. I don't think what I'm trying to say is I don't think people were like upgrading systems back then quite as quickly as they do like these days. It feels like yeah, with this the Super Nintendo would totally be out for a few years and they would definitely still be cranking out tons of games like and good games for the NES at that point too. So
Yeah.
cuz
Yeah,
yeah,
100%. I was playing that game after like well after the SNES had already come out.
oh, that's
I was playing a lot of the Mega Man games. I was playing like at least one or two generations later, I
oh for
think.
sure. Yeah, like I'm yeah, most of my childhood like the NES was out and I was still definitely playing like these games for the first time on, other people's Nintendos.
Yeah,
So it was great.
yeah. Well, they did a similar thing for Mega Man and Bass or like Rockman and Forte. I don't know if you know that game, but
I know of
Mega
it.
Man
I've
8
never
came out
played
for
it.
the Mega Man 8 came out for the PlayStation, and it was the same idea. Capcom was like, well, there are a lot of kids who don't have PlayStations and are still working with Super Nintendo. And so they released Mega Man, well, Rockman and Forte, aka Mega Man and Bass. They released that for those consumers who like still had the Super Nintendo and wanted a new Mega Man game. And they actually reused like a lot of the assets from Mega Man 8. Like if you look at Mega Man 8 on the PlayStation 1 and then you look at Rockman and Bass on the SNES, they're like the same game because they just reused all the assets. So I think they were able to like really crank it out quickly.
Nice. Well, I'm sure, yeah. Well, even with this series, you can kind of, as things go on, you can really tell they've got a well-oiled machine going by the end here. It seems like.
Yeah.
I mean, without knowing anything about the behind-the-scenes stuff. You were saying the next one, like 7 or whatever, was also done in a chronically short amount of time. I
I don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Inafune said 3 months, and like I cannot understand how anybody could develop a game in 3 months, but that's the story.
damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for taking the time to go through these. I don't know if do you have any closing thoughts on these first 6 games?
Um. Well, good question. I mean, I'll just like comment that I didn't put anything in the S tier, and one of my biggest frustrations with Mega Man is that very few of the games are actually an S tier for me. Like I feel like a lot of them have flaws that like ruin the game for me that if they hadn't been there, I would just like I don't know. I feel like they messed up the easy stuff a lot in Mega Man, which kind of annoys me to no end. There are a couple games that are in the one game I put in S tier is Mega Man 9, and that wasn't even developed by Capcom. I don't think so.
You might be onto something there.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess that's my only other comment. What about you?
Um, I think. Well, I mean, yeah, even I think actually, especially with this discussion, I'd say I don't think there's any like actual legitimately bad games on this list. My opinion of 4, notwithstanding, the fact that the fact that I can put that game in D and you can have it, so much higher, I think is probably a testament to just Mega Man is a winning formula. It started off a bit rough, but I mean, considering it was an absolute like innovative game changer at the time, which I honestly tried not to factor that kind of stuff, like the level of innovation each game was bringing like at the time
Mm,
into my rankings, just because I'm playing it today. Um, with with the exception of cutting them a little bit of slack here and there, because it's, I mean, a game that's older than I am. If we're talking about the first one, so it's like, yeah, it's set your expectations accordingly. I would recommend basically any of like, I would recommend the Legacy Collection to anybody who's interested in it. I'm always super curious whenever I have some of my younger viewers pop in. I'm always curious what their take on this game is. A lot of them don't enjoy watching it, but I would love to explore more what a much young, like what today's the modern gaming children would think of games like this. And not just like Mega Man 11, which is the other, I don't know if you call it Mega Man 11 a classic, but it's in the Mega Man number series. Like that to me is, I enjoyed that game a lot, but it's very different from like these ones, for example.
mm,
Like it's a much more modern experience, and I think that is good in some ways and takes away in a lot of others. But I would recommend like the Legacy Collection for sure. I'm sure if you're like a speedrunner or a purist, uh, there's probably some like technical shit that maybe people don't like about it, but I'm not nearly far enough down a rabbit hole for that, um, to care about any of that nonsense. Um, Certainly watching people speedrun any of these games, I think, is a real treat, even if you don't know anything about them. Like just the level of glitches and just the level of skill that those guys have playing these games is just fucking mind blowing. So yeah, I don't know. I love classic Mega Man, even though as a kid I was much more of a like an the 3 original X titles were like my jam growing up. For games that I like I've probably spent the most time in for Mega Man games, but I don't think that has clouded my view of these ones. I have the second Legacy collection, which I'm sure I will get into eventually, and I know that things get a little spicier. My very vague understanding is that the needle goes all over the place for the next couple titles. So I have a very morbid curiosity in getting through those someday. But yeah, that'll be a bit down the road, I think. And on top of that, after watching you do some really fun and crazy and punishing looking like mod runs of some of these games, like I really want to get into that too, but there's only so many hours in the day. So
It's true. Sorry, did you have any other final? I
nope,
don't want to cut you
nope,
off.
nope. That was basically it.
I will 100% agree. I'm going to try to comment on a couple of things. I will agree that there is no bad game among these. Like looking at the list, we have two of them in, is it two of them or three of them? Yeah, we have two of them in C tier and you have one in D tier. But like this is relative to all the other Mega Man games. So like Missile says none of 1 through 6 are outright bad. They're all well above average NES games. Like
Oh God.
100% agree. If you were to bring in like the average NES game, like all of these
I,
games
I
are
don't think
super good.
I don't think any of these would fall like if you were doing a quality scale for all other NES games like their contemporaries, I don't know if any of these would
Yeah.
fall below an A. Like just off.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, maybe that's being generous, but a B for sure. Compared to a lot of this shit on the NES, like these masterpieces.
100%. 100%. Um, you're right that things get weird in 7 through 10. So you played 11, but you haven't played 7 through 10,
I
it sounds like.
as far as I know, I have never like I said, some of these I'm sure I grazed. Like when I was playing through, there was a couple of these like, oh, I have this vague memory of this level. I had no idea I had rented Mega Man 5 or whatever. But I know for a fact
Yeah.
I never played a Mega Man game that wasn't a NES title until I played 11 like or last year. So
Right.
yeah, I have no experience with with 7 through 10.
Gotcha. Well, I won't comment on them. I want you to, if you do ever stream them, I'm definitely going to tune in. But I'll leave it a blank slate. Don't want to influence your opinion before you even get in there.
Well, yeah, like I said, I've heard some vague thing. I think I've watched a speed run or two of some of those games, and just it's basically just from comments other people were saying. It's like, okay, this
Yeah.
when you're watching a speed run, everything looks janky because they're breaking the games, so it's kind of it's not exactly a representative of the normal gaming experience, but
Mm, yeah. I mean, those speedruns are super fun to watch. Like I said, that's kind of what got me to join Twitch to begin with. And I think it's like speaks to the replayability of these games because like speed running is just like replaying the game over and over and over again. But even if you're not speed running, like I feel like that's one of the best things about this series is that there's a lot of replay value because it's always about like getting a little bit better, like doing it better the next time or doing it right the next time. So there's like a lot of satisfaction in being able to beat the game faster or like buster only or with no E tanks or like whatever kind of challenge you want to set for yourself. There's like a lot there. And this is why I like the short and sweet ones like you, like Mega Man 1 and 2 that kind of just like don't have any filler because then you can just you play them again.
yep, for sure. Awesome. Well, yeah, if you don't have anything else, I think that's it for the tier list. I can yeah, I can save this list and send it over to you if you'd like the picture version of it.
Sure, I'll take a picture of it.
I will definitely
Thanks for inviting me on your stream.
Oh, my pleasure. It was it's literally as soon as I finished 6, I like put the controller down and ended stream like, all right, so now what do I do? And my first thought was, I need to give Dave a call and see if he wants to go through these games. um,
I have many opinions, and I will jump at any chance to share those opinions.
nice, nice. Well, then this probably won't be the last time we do something like this because I am a bit of a fiend for these games. So, yeah, I've got a few things on the docket, but I'm sure it's only a matter of time before I jump back into the world of the Blue Bomber.
Hell yeah. Well, I still gotta finish X3. That's my one. I have a couple Mega Man games I haven't played, but X3 is at the top of the list.
Well, finishing it is the hardest part.
I've heard scary stories about the final boss, so I might rage quit. We'll see.
Well, I will say you're one of the more composed people I've watched play Mega Man, so um I haven't seen you like throw anything yet. But I'll definitely tune in if I see you doing X3 because that might be the one that does it.
Yeah, yeah, okay,
Uh actually,
cool, man.
yeah, I feel like that boss is a little bit over, like the final boss is a little bit overhyped, but I'm not going to say it's not fucking hard and bullshit because it
Okay,
is. But anyways.
okay.
Awesome. Well, I can let you go. And yeah,
All right.
thanks again, and I'm sure I'll see you around
Yeah. Thanks, T. Roy. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.
for sure.
Later.
Later. All right, I will bring up the tier list in full screen so you can see it. Just give me a second to get my shit together. All right, let's get the window view up. Window, where did you go? All right, give me 1 second to get my floof together here. Second, 1 second. And the Doge should appear. I should appear. And it's about to appear.